Hi, my name is Nathan Tavares, and I'll be reading from my short story, Missed Calls, which was published in Giganotosaurus. And thanks again to Cambridge Common Writers for the opportunity. At first, the calls from the dead helped out a lot, with parents decades lost to cancer finally able to cry to their kids. You made me so proud. Sure, closure is mostly a bullshit torture device, but tell that to someone who just got their first night's sleep in months, after a sister who died of an overdose calls to tell them, quit blaming yourself. The ghosts, or whatever they are pretty tight-lipped about the hows and the whys. We can't tell you where we're calling from. It's just about as much as anyone can squeeze out of the dead. If we pester too much, they just hang up, so everyone learns real fast the questions you don't ask. Late night dipshit hosts ha-ha'd in front of velvet curtains. What kind of data overages are we talking about calls from heaven? Everyone figured the calls would stop after the goodbyes. Nope. Once the dead were done dishing out wisdom, the calls were, honestly, annoying. Dead Aunt Melinda phoning after you moved into her house to tell you not to use any of that pledge shit on her floors because vinegar and water worked just fine. One of my friends swore her dead grandmother called looking for help installing a printer. When Richie called the first time, my hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone. I didn't want to try to explain away just how he was even calling. It was just good to hear his voice. Is it you? I asked. Swear on my soul. In the backyard when we were kids, creeping through the woods to chuck mud balls at Lily and Louise Patinkin next door, swear on my soul was our promise. Do you like Lily? No, swear on my soul. In high school, after Richie hauled ass out our bedroom window to sneak to some kegger, I hissed down to him, swear on your soul you won't drink and drive. I saved him the I'm telling mom fist shaking later that night when I picked him up after his ride bailed and he called me wasted. Even when he was puking out my car window and I drove to the 24-hour diner where I was starting a shift in 3 hours and wouldn't leave until he scarfed down a burger and a couple of sodas. When he moved away after college, even though I was the older one, I had a year left. Which turned to 2, which turned into maybe I'll finish up someday. The swear on my soul hovered between us like the exhaust from his car idling nearby. We'll stay in touch. Swear on my soul. When my cell phone rattles on my nightstand, I paw at it, holding my breath every time I see unknown flash across the screen, hoping it'll be her. It never is. The ceiling of my stamp-sized studio apartment is the white of cake frosting, cut with bright lines of sunlight from the window blinds. Richie has the decency not to call until afternoon, since he remembers most nights I close the bar and don't get home until past 3. While our mom, still kicking 2 towns over, fires up the horn at the ass crack of dawn to remind me about some family thing or some way I let her down, or just to wake me up with sentences that start with, I know you're hurting, but, until she putters out, not knowing how to finish. I hear in her voice every time she calls, it should have been you. The inside of my head is a dry sponge thanks to the after shift drink that turned into 4, then 6 as I yacked at the bottles while I cleaned. You half full or half empty, Jack? I must have dozed in the bus because I missed a couple stops and had to hoof it home, dodging streetlights. Bro, Richie says, wake up. Jesus. For someone who's dead, Richie is usually so cheery it sounds like he's got sunshine shooting out of his ass. I scoot up in bed, my stomach lurching a tango. I'm up, I groan. I've got a mission for you. The rules for who the dead can call are pretty fuzzy from what I can tell. My friend Allie says she's got 3 ghosts scabbing her ear off almost every day. Others, the only word they'll get from the other side is from a still living sister that calls all, Mom says to tell you you're being a real bitch. Whenever Richie calls, we'll catch up on what's going on with me, which I guess means he and the others aren't spying on us through some glass floor in heaven. I'm pretty happy about that, especially when I'm in a can or something. When I asked once, he only told me that he was someplace else. I was hoping he'd say, someplace better. This mission better involved Gatorade and fried eggs, I say, because that's all I can handle right now. Get off your ass, he laughs. It's important. So is, I want to make sure that Laika is okay. My stomach drops a few elevator floors at his words. In the 6 months since he's been gone, and the 4 or so since the phone started ringing, he's never made me feel bad about Laika. When I would have really busted out the weaponized guilt if I was him. How could you take my dog to the goddamn pound? I know your life imploded on you, but at least you'll make it to 35. Not Richie. He's always been the best out of the two of us, the whole family even. All I could blubber to him that first call was, I couldn't keep her. It was too much with everything. I'm so sorry. All he said was, I know. Richie, man, I don't know if... Have you heard from Nina? Bingo. He always shuts down my arguments before they even start, so I don't have to sprint through the Nina minefield. The sharp lines of sunlight sway on my ceiling, though it could just be my eyes pissed at me. Yeah, I trail. I'll call the shelter. They said she was adopted. I'll find out who has her now and maybe they can send a picture or something. No, I want you to really see her. Scratch her behind the ears. Tell her she's a good girl. All that. Richie would never say it out loud, but I think behind the light in his voice lurks something as close to you owe it to me as he'll ever get. Today's not great. I have to be back to the bar by 7 and no, it has to be today. I know you. You'll put it off. I've got time. I can stay in the line. I save him the jokes. You've got time? What, you're so busy playing shuffleboard on the tops of clouds with angels or whatever? Because you'll only snap that I always crack one when I'm trying to shake off something, which is right. I'll try. Don't try. Do it, Ronnie.